We like to pretend that our tricycle was a tractor and that we were pulling farm implements around. So I suppose here I'm mowing the grass. Bob and me at Lester and Mary Jane's house. Notice how well we treat their dog. Uncle John with one of Grandpa Wanger's cows. We also got to play with the rabbits. This was all very exciting. Grandma Wanger. Dan and Mildred came to visit us. That's Dan, Harry, and Barbara, my cousins. And I'm playing the clarinet. We were pretending that we were having a parade. Somehow Jay seems to have dropped out of the ranks here. This was a trip taken with my uncle and aunt Lester and Mary Jane Wanger and their children, Bobby and Linda. Probably would have taken place in 1955. We're at a place, an amusement park called Cowboy City, which I believe was located in New Jersey. There you can see Les and Mary Jane and Bobby and Linda and Jay and I getting off the train. Here we're feeding the sheep. We took the stagecoach ride which they had there and managed to get robbed. Mom liked the Surrey with the fringe on top. On the same trip, we visited Storyland. This is a place where nursery rhymes and fairy tales, along with Bible stories, come to life. Here's Jack the Giant Killer. The crooked house built by a crooked man. Humpty Dumpty. Little Bo Peep with her sheep. Come on, Lester, get out of the way of the picture. Ah, thank you. The giant birthday cake. Mother Goose Land. And I suppose that that is Mother Goose. Hickory dickory dock, the mouse ran up the clock. Noah's Ark. Hey diddle diddle, the cat and the fiddle, the cow jumped over the moon. The gingerbread house. Jonah in the whale's mouth. The woman who lived in the shoe. Peter Peter Pumpkin Eater. Rockabye Baby. Elementary school where I attended first grade. And in fact, this was my first day of school. Boy, did I miss my mommy, and was I glad to get away from that place. They probably figured there wasn't very much hope for that guy. Now we're at the Philadelphia Zoo. The otter pool. And here are the sea lions. The black swans. Believe it or not, there's a monkey in that baby carriage. I believe this is a Memorial Day parade, probably around 1955. You can see these are the Hershey Drum and Bugle Corps. They're coming down the Chocolate Avenue in Hershey. Perhaps those are trolley tracks on the right of the screen. You can see the chocolate factory with all its ivory covering. Now we're at Hershey Zoo. This might be one of my first pony rides. The bear pit at Hershey still looks pretty much the same, except they don't have the baby bear. It's interesting to see these pictures of Hershey Zoo. Since Hershey has gone to the Zoo America concept, there are animals on these pictures which they would no longer have at Hershey, such as this llama. The bison. Monkey. Wolf. And now we're going to take a pony cart ride at Hershey Park. And the fire engine ride. It appears that Dad got Mama corsage for one of the holidays. And this was our house between Campbelltown and Palmyra. And Dad's old Chevy. This shows what the circus used to be like in the days of the Big Top. You can see the various wagons that were involved in the putting on the circus. Now we're at Gettysburg, at Barlow's Knoll. This, I think, is at Oak Ridge, near the Peace Light Memorial. And here we are at the base of that memorial. Believe it or not, we're fighting over who gets the first drink of water. General Reynolds statue. The base of the Virginia State Memorial. I believe that's the ground across which Pickett's men charged. Now we're driving along President Eisenhower's property. Eisenhower was in office at the time, so you weren't allowed to go up the lookout tower which overlooked his farm. Here's the guardhouse to the President's Lane. Now we're at General Meade's headquarters, back on the battlefield. Pennsylvania State Memorial. Little Round Top. To the left is the statue of General Warren. Evidently it had been raining or was raining, because there's a good bit of water to the right on this picture. Now we're in the National Cemetery. Each year the AAA Club sponsored a police rodeo. This is the entrance of the mounted police. There's our neighbors, Ted and Sue Bungo, along with their son Dwayne. The police dogs were really well trained. The clown was always a big favorite, but it looks like his dog died. Well, it's time to call out Dr. Dog with his medical kit. But we really need more help than this, so we better call in an ambulance. The motorcycle drill team. There's Ted. Well, it's Christmas 1955, and we've just come back from Gettysburg. Dad made us a barn that was patterned after what we saw at the Eisenhower property. Here Mom is with Christmas tree, and now it is Christmas morning. I got a truck for Christmas. In fact, Jay got one too. This had some horses, I believe, in the back of it. We also got a mechanical tractor. When you ran it, the front end loader went up and down. And some Tinker toys. Oh, and we each got a drum. I think I'm trying to eat my stocking on this view. This is the fireplace mantle with its decorations. This is also the house that's between Palmyra and Campbelltown. Dad helped us to make a giraffe out of those Tinker toys. This is our pet parakeet, Petey. Petey learned how to say Petey Pretty Bird. Our manger scene. Now we're at the Christmas dinner. This was at Grandma and Grandpa Schney's house. There's the Wine family, Norman and Ada with their children. It's Jerry, Jim and Larry. Larry and Vicky. Here's Dan and Mildred and their family. Grandma and Grandpa Schney. And here we are. One evening the Bungos came to visit us. There's Mom talking with Sue, and Dwayne Bungo and Jay. It's my 4th birthday. Jay and I found this really neat place to hide in Mom's cupboards. Notice Jay can fit into a pot. Now it's Jay's 2nd birthday. Here's the train layout. We had it set up on our dining room table. It's an American Flyer work train. You might be able to see the smoke coming out of the train engine as it goes past. The layout was made out of a piece of plywood, 2 pieces of 4x8 plywood. There's a pond in the center with goldfish in. The bridge goes over the pond. In the background there's a mountain with a tunnel cut through it. Here my cousin Bob and I are discussing who's going to run my train layout. Meanwhile, Jay's just kind of taking it all in. The year is 1955, and here we are on the first of our family vacations together. We're at Mount Vernon, the home of George Washington, our first president. I'm 4 years old, and Jay is 2 years old. We're looking out over the Potomac River. Now, as you can see, we had quite a line to get into Mount Vernon. Here we saw some Negro farm workers plowing a field in North Carolina. They're using horse-drawn plows. It looks almost like the Amish country that we left behind. One of the workers was only a boy, so Dad went out to talk to him. Even when we go to Florida today, we see the South of the Border Motel. In those days, it really seemed to be a palatial type of place. Santee State Park in South Carolina. We were there pretty late one evening. And now we're at the famous Dixie Jungle. Mom was just hoping that peacock would open up its tail feathers for her. And sure enough it didn't. Or did. Fort Frederica was the fort of James Oglethorpe, the founder of the Georgia colony. The construction of this fort's kind of unusual. They used seashells in the mortar. And lo and behold, we made it to Florida. It seemed that there were many of these tourist trap type of places along the highway. As you can see, they have a thorough selection of reptiles. As I recall the story, this bird kept saying, "This way out, this way out." Silver Springs early in the morning, and it was really cold. In fact, we got the first glass-bottom boats out. After it got a bit lighter out, we were able to see quite a few fish. As I recall, this was more of a submarine type of boat in which you could look out portholes to see the fish. And here we're taking the Jungle Cruise. This was a place at which they had filmed some Tarzan movies. And you can see the monkeys coming along the bank of the creek in order to catch the food that was being tossed to them. Prince of Peace Chapel. Here's Dad with his two boys. That bucking bronco that they put me on. But look at the docile creature they put Jay on. We got out to the Gulf Coast Notice how well tanned Harry Wanger is compared to the rest of us. An amphibious plane flew by and caught our attention. Poor Jay just hated to walk barefooted in the sand. The seashells in the sand hurt his feet. Sarasota is the winter home of Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus. And these are the wild burros that might bite you or kick you. I always thought it was neat seeing how this bear seemed to just fall over and suddenly become a hippo. And now we're at Sarasota Jungle. Jay seemed to be pretty worn out here. And alligator, black swans. Flamingos. Bird of paradise. We found a little hideout. Always get the inspection sticker or part of the car on her pictures. And now we're at the Sunken Gardens. Apparently we were there pretty late in the day. Like this flower. Would you believe it? They made us sit with these two models. Hey, he's my brother. Dad also got his turn with the models. Look how far away he sat. A baby alligator. This is the Cypress Garden water ski show. The pyramid is more or less the trademark of this show. The great masterpiece is a mosaic of Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper. And here we see a Seminole Indian canoe. Clinch is a fort at which I believe they said Davy Crockett once served. Notice the gator skin on the wall. I'm pretty well worn out, but it looks like Jay still has some life. And here we're at the Bach Tower, famous Carillion tower. They use the bells at the top to play music. And now we're at the Black Hills Passion Play. This is a special place as far as I'm concerned because I think one of my earliest memories is seeing the animals grazing outside of the amphitheater here. Here's the Garden Tomb. This is Pilate's judgment area. The main stage. The meeting place of the Jewish Sanhedrin. The home of Mary, Martha, and Lazarus, and the scene of the triumphal entry into Jerusalem. As you can see, Jay was a real swinger back then. And here we have on our official Florida shirts. And we later got some hats so we wouldn't have our suntans on our noses. Of course, being in Florida back in those days meant that you saw a lot of orange trees. Here's a sugar plantation. And now we're at Parrot Jungle. I believe those are cockatoos. Notice all the goldfish. The toucan. There are about a half dozen macaws there. Notice that the flamingos have black under their wings. Little did this trainer realize that he was only warming the birds and the audience up for the real star of the show. And there he is, the Birdman of Parrot Jungle. Now we're at Monkey Jungle. Here they're pretending to be United States Marines. Now we're Indians. Doesn't even have to look. Jay and I thought those monkeys just had to get out of that car and let us have a chance to ride it. And now for the celebrities. Liberace, Ringo Starr in his formative years, I guess, and Tarzan. At Monkey Jungle, we walked through the cage and the monkeys were outside of the cage roaming around. Notice the washcloth on the dash. That's a coconut tree. And here's the Key West Naval Base. Notice the 3 dirigibles. Everglades National Park. And here we got to see Mom's friend, the snake. There's a raccoon in under those branches. This mechanism is used for harvesting pineapples. There are conveyor belts between those truck-like machines. Now we're at the Seminole Indian Reservation. There you can see 4 of the Seminole Indians. This little girl is really cute. Africa, USA. Perhaps there are some scenes of the animals here which will remind Sherry and Jay of the safaris that they took in Kenya. The wildebeest is supposed to be one of the ugliest animals in the world. And here we got to see the only geyser in the state of Florida. And there it is. Now we're along the Atlantic coast. At Marine Studios, we got to see the porpoises perform. Porpoise is another name for the dolphin. Here they're jumping for food in the main tank. Now we're seeing the porpoise show. Here the porpoise is pulling a dog in a little boat. The porpoise is putting out a fire. And now he looks like Jay shooting baskets. Is the oldest city in the United States. And here we got to see the old jail. The gallows. Here Mom is punishing a person probably for drunkenness. Whenever we went to a restaurant, Jay's standard order was hot dog and Coca-Cola. Now we made really good time getting home. There was a hurricane coming up the coast behind us. And here we are back at Grandma and Grandpa Wanger's. Here Jay and I are playing our ukuleles. And what do you know? We have a baby sister, Janet. There's Dad with his girl. I'm holding her while Jay serenades her. And of course we had to teach her to clap. Now Dwayne Bungo is holding her. Jay sure wanted something that's up on that fireplace mantle. And there we are holding our little sister Janet. This was a very special birthday cake. It looked like the animals made out of animal crackers going into Noah's Ark. This is the covered bridge across the Cocalico Creek that was next to Grandma and Grandpa Wanger's property. And there's Uncle John's new car. This is the view looking out from the bridge across the creek. Grandma and Grandpa Wanger had a large tree right beside their house, and there was a rope swing on that tree. Here Phoebe Ann is holding Janet. I love that swing. This is the view out behind our house. Well, this was an exciting day. The circus had come to Hershey, and Dad took us to see them unloading the animals and to watch them setting up. Notice the roller coaster in the background on this shot. The place where they're unloading these animals is now part of the entertainment area of Hershey Park. One evening, Ted Bungo took us to the police barracks to do some horse riding. Here Jay gets his turn. That's me. Sue Bungo had trouble getting up on the horse. Dad doesn't look too bad on the horse. But Ted was the real horseman. Finally, I got another shot at it. Here's Janet sucking on a lollipop. Meanwhile, Jay was playing with our dog. I think the dog's name was Terry. Well, Janet also discovered the hiding place. I think she was more interested in the cereal, though, at this point. She's a busy girl, though. She now has to learn to walk, too. This is the view out behind our house. Notice the sandbox that Dad built for us. You can see it there in the lower left of the picture. This blimp is flying past Art and Naomi Matthias's roof. Art and Naomi owned the property next to us. Here Ted Bungo took us to the police barracks again, this time to see a colt which had been born. Ted put us up on what seemed to me to be the largest horse in all the world. The horse wasn't exactly standing still, and I was scared that I'd fall off. And since everyone else was holding on to me, I figured if I went down, everyone else would too. This was my birthday party when I was in first grade. You can see my 3 friends there. Notice the bird feeder that Dad made for our family. It's in the lower right-hand part of the picture. When we lived near Campbelltown, Dad was the assistant fire chief for the Campbelltown Fire Department. And there is Dad. This is fire school. The demonstration is to show what happens when water hits metal chips which are burning. They had a minor emergency. One of the buildings at the fire school had a fire develop inside of it. There's a fire drill with the Campbelltown Fire Department. And there's Dad again. This shows the winter of 1956-1957. Notice who is pulling the wagon here for Sister Janet. I think I'm trying to build a snowman here. Notice the for sale sign in our front yard. Boy, did I ever feel big here. This shows some scenes from the construction of Conestoga Valley High School. Conestoga Valley was the first job that Dad worked on after he joined Warfel Construction Company. Art Matthias plowed our garden for us. I was just hoping he'd give me a ride. Conestoga Valley High School. Earl and Rosie came to visit. That's Dale walking around and Mervyn is the baby. Jay and Dale are on the glider, I'm on the swings. One of our neighbors was combining his wheat, and we managed to get a ride on the combine. At Hershey Park, we took a ride on the airplane ride, and also the cars. We're playing out in the yard with Ted Bungo. And Jay almost got kicked in the head. We're making a snowman beside the front porch at Grandma and Grandpa Wanger's house. That's me. While Dad and I were busy hard at work on trimming the shrubbery, Jay kind of supervised. Ted Bungo showing off his police car. That's Uncle Lester with my cousin Bob to the left and me to the right. Bob and me. I like to help Dad mow the yard. This is Uncle John. It's the day they built the new milk house for Grandpa Wanger. That's Dad laying the block. Grandpa Wanger's in the center of the picture. Here Lester and Mary Jane had come to visit us. You can see Linda in the center of the picture. Bob's off to the left. I'm not quite sure how I managed to get on that picture of Les and Mary Jane's family. This is at Uncle Lester's. That's Bob and I on the bike, and Jay on the tricycle. The film shows the building of the house along the Fruitville Pike in 1957. Here the bulldozer's stripping off the topsoil. In the background you can see Earl Meck's farm. That's Dad staking out the house. Jay and I really loved climbing around and sliding around on that dirt pile. The well driller. Here they're pouring the footers. Grandpa Wanger is wearing the bib overalls there. At some places it looks like the footers are at about the same grade as the ground outside of the house. It really took a lot of fill to bring this house up to grade then. That's Irvin, Dad's brother, supervising the work. I tried to help as I could with leveling the stones. Across the road was the Fairland Elementary School. This is where I went to school for grades 2 through 6. Now the masons are laying the basement wall. Now they're bringing the garage up to grade. Again, that's Grandpa Wenger helping with the work. Putting on the deck. And now framing it up. It was really fun to go up and down the gangplank into the house. Here Dad's putting on the shingles. When Grandma Schnees first saw this film, she thought that I had fallen off the roof. She didn't realize that I had just gone over to the other half. But Jay and I were both on the roof here. Now the masons have come to finish the bricklaying. Jay really enjoyed hiding from the mason's mud man. Pouring the basement floor. The electrician. Now the house looks like it's just about done, at least as far as the outside's concerned. Until the inside was finished, we lived inside of the garage. Janet's watching as Dad finishes the sidewalk. And now the doors have arrived. That's the front door. Here Dad's making the lawn out behind our house along the Fruitville Pike. Here we see the front porch to the house along the Fruitville Pike. Notice the chairs on the porch, the milk box, and also the geraniums that Mom has in the planter. I'm taking Jay and Janet for a ride in our express wagon. That's Earl Meck baling hay for Pete Eckert. There are Pete and his mule Kate picking up the bales. Well, now it's our first Christmas in the new house. Christmas Eve 1957. Notice the walls haven't even been painted yet. Mom was just dying to know what was in her packages. Uh-oh, she was supposed to be in bed. Well, now it actually is Christmas morning. Oh, Janet got a baby carriage. Here Jay and I helped Janet unwrap her present. Jay got a farm set. And I got what had to be the best fire engine in all the world. That fire engine was really something. The ladder went up so high that when it was fully extended, I could just barely reach the top of it. There's Petey sitting on top of one of the implements. Jay could almost fit inside the barn that his farm set came in. Janet thought she just had to have one of those cookies that Mom kept on the top shelf. Apparently she got one. Here's Jay with his cowboy rodeo set. He has it set up on the piano bench. We had a pretty good harvest that fall. I'm holding a watermelon, Jay has a pumpkin, and Jan has a cantaloupe. Here Dad found an easy way to roll his yard. Notice Pete Eckert's farm in the background. Pete's the farmer who sold us the land on which we built our house. We always had a pretty big garden out behind our house. Here's how Dad worked up the soil using an Alice Chalmers B tractor that he had bought in an auction. Now we're at the Hershey Rose Garden. And the tulips are in bloom. You can get an idea from here just how big that garden really was. Dad was mighty pleased with his flowers and shrubs. And Janet admired them also. These would be the first scenes of us playing baseball. I'm pitching, the batter is Kurt Herneisen, our neighbor boy, and Kurt's sister Christy is playing second base center field. As you can see, we're not real talented yet. There's Jay on third base, hoping I'll get it. What do you know? About this time I started growing rabbits for a 4-H project. This is a gathering at Grandma and Grandpa Wanger's house. We're on the hill in front of their house. And there are the cousins. John Arbull is the one playing the guitar, and Grandma Wanger's seated to the right. Well, that's what the family looked like. And here's Dad's parents, along with their brothers and sisters. Well, it's Christmas again. This must be 58 or 59. And that year I got an erector set for Christmas. That crane shown inside the lid was the ultimate thing you could build with this erector set. Jay got some trucks. In fact, 30 years later, he still has the trucks, and they're all still in pretty good shape. Janet got another doll. This is the mural that we had above our fireplace. It shows a scene from Glacier National Park. And this is the bathroom. Jay and I have each gotten a new bicycle. Here's Jay on his bike. There I am, also on Jay's bike. Evidently I didn't have enough confidence to ride my own larger bike. Oops, I think Dad lost more shrubbery that way. Mom decided to show us how it really ought to be done. And even Janet was able to ride a bicycle as long as those training wheels were on. This is at Fairland Elementary School. The Mannheim Fire Department had come out to make an adjustment at the top of the flagpole. As I recall, they had just gotten a new fire engine and wanted to show off what it could do. Now it's 59 or 60, and we're at Longwood Gardens with Mildred and Dan's family. That shows Janet and Rachel. And there you see Janet, Jay, and me. Evidently, it was really fun to run around that fountain. Campbelltown's Bicentennial Parade. This is the Hershey Drum and Bugle Corps. That sleigh, believe it or not, is riding on a block of ice. Dad had lots of friends in the fire department yet. I believe on the left, that's Earl Hinkle, our friend. Notice what Dad uses here to weight down the harrow. This is my field trip when I was in second grade. The teacher was Mrs. Miller. There I am getting off the bus. Henry Hershey's getting off now. Earl Meck was the bus driver. We went to visit Lancaster's Bureau of Police and also the fire department. North Museum. We had a picnic lunch at Long's Park. This is the Strasburg Railroad. This is what Eastern Mennonite College looked like right around 1960. The campus chapel. That's me rowing that boat. Every year Dad would take his Sunday school class on some kind of special outing. Here we are at Roadside America. We have as our guests the boys from the Millersville Children's Home. Here we are at Connie Mack Stadium in Philadelphia. The event is a Billy Graham crusade. This was in the early 1960s when the Phillies had one of the worst teams in baseball. I can remember hearing someone say that the Phillies would never fill this stadium the way Billy Graham did. Now we're seeing the altar call. So many people came out during this call that the infield dirt was totally covered with people. Now we're at the Governor Dick Observation Tower. I think this might have been another of Dad's Sunday school class outings. Our jack-o'-lantern. Dad was now rising in the ranks at Warple Associates and had a company truck to use. Notice the driveway is not yet paved, and we have a cornfield next to us. Here's the MYF, or Mennonite Youth Fellowship, from Lititz Mennonite Church on the trail at Camp Hebron, probably around 1959 or 60. That's J and Rhoda Oberholzer. Johnny Herr, Jane Herr, and Anna Shirk. Don Brubaker, Luke Mosman, and Clete Boyer. Mel and Marion Weaver. Glenn Thomas. The scene around the campfire. Jay Oberholzer's wearing the red shirt. I think that's Mom talking to Jack. Spring, probably 1960. Dad's azaleas are in bloom. Snow removal in 1961. I believe this is the winter of 1961. That would have been one of the worst winters we had while we were in our house near the Fruitville Pike. The view looking north from our driveway. Entrance to the Eisenhower farm at Gettysburg. Eisenhower was no longer president, so we were able to climb the observation tower which overlooks his farm, and that is the Eisenhower barn in the center of the picture. And in the center is the entrance to the lane into the farm. First Presbyterian Church is where the Eisenhowers worshipped. Eternal Light Peace Memorial on Oak Ridge. We are riding the Dry Gulch Railway in Hershey Park. This would have been one of the first seasons that the railroad was open. Apache Pass and the Indian Village. I'm playing my trumpet at Grandma and Grandpa Schney's front yard. This is our trip to Ocean City, New Jersey in 1961. We're on board the Chester Ferry and are crossing the Delaware River. We had a rather large inflatable rubber shark that we used to ride the waves. Here Jay is holding it. The lifeguard station. Now Dad and I are out in the surf. Mom's out there now too. That's Janet. This film is probably the best motion picture in existence of Grandma and Grandpa Schnee. There's Mom and Dad with our family. Jerry and Jim Tesno with Larry and Vicky. Norman and Ada Wine with their family. Dan and Mildred and family. The year is probably 1960, maybe 1961, and this gathering of Mom's family is being held at Dan and Mildred's farm. That's Rachel eating a roast ear of corn. Here Grandpa Schnee's hitting fly balls for us to field. There doesn't seem to have been a whole lot of talent on, at least baseball talent, on Mom's side of the family. There's Dan dropping a fly ball. Larry manages to field one cleanly. That's Janet. Now Dan misses one and it gets past Jim Tesno also. Larry misses one. Now it's time to pitch quoits. And after the men were done, the boys got their chance. That's me in the foreground. And now it is my turn. Dan and Mildred had a rather large farm pond. There Jay's playing in the sand along the bank of the pond. Janet's on the table with Jay off to the left, Grandpa Schnee's off to the right. And there is Grandpa. Jim Tesno. That's Grandma in the center, along with Jerry and Mildred. Evidently, I had my tricks, such as pushing my brother. In 1962, Mannheim celebrated its bicentennial. This is the Rebestos Manhattan float in the bicentennial parade. A float with a space-age theme. The bicentennial queen and her court. On some of these scenes, you're going to see a kid with a black hat popping his head in and out of the picture. I'm almost positive that that's me. For example, there I am. I remember that our neighbor boy, Kurt Herneisen, had a group that pretended they were Confederate soldiers. This, by the way, is Mannheim Central Junior High School marching band. Anyway, Kurt's group was in this parade, but unfortunately we don't have any movies of it. I believe that's Mr. Kern. I'm not really sure how a group with an Oriental theme like this one fit in with the bicentennial. Mannheim Sertoma Club. That's Grandma Schnee on the lower left of this picture. That's a man dressed up like a woman. Rural Insurance sponsored this particular group. Warwick High School Marching Band. This string band was from Philadelphia. They must have been terribly hot marching in uniforms designed for a New Year's Day here in a hot day in Mannheim. Lancaster General Hospital. This shows the expansion of the hospital that was done by Warfel Associates. From the middle of the 50s all through the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and into 1990, Dad worked for, first of all, D.S. Warfel Associates, which then became Warfel Construction Company. This is the Farm Bureau job in Mannheim. The Farm Bureau job was Dad's first as a foreman for Warfels. In fact, this turned out to be somewhat of a dangerous job because of the height involved with these grain elevators. In order to get up to the one area where they had to work, it was necessary to set a ladder on top of a railroad boxcar. It looked so dangerous that none of the men would go up, so Dad had to go up himself. As I recall, some of the work on this job was done on a Sunday, which was kind of unusual for the time. They had to block one of the railroad tracks in order to set up some of the construction equipment, and that line wasn't going to be used on Sunday. Harry Zimmerman and my aunt Ruth Weaver. This is Wanger family get-together. There's Ruth again. Here are three of my uncles, Lester in the center, and then John off to the side, and Joe Arbaugh eating watermelon. There Joe, Miriam, and Irene Zimmerman are playing their instruments. This would be John and Esther's son, Darrell. He's just learning to crawl, and Janet's playing with him. Now Donna Zimmerman has also joined in the fun. That's me mowing our backyard, being rather closely supervised. I think that might be Renee Mumal, Marie and Levi's daughter. She's in Jan's baby stroller. Now here is Jan. She had just gotten her tonsils out, and as a present Mom and Dad got her this doll, which was almost as big as she is. It's interesting to note in these pictures how much Jan looks like her own daughter, Jessica. I believe this snowstorm would have probably been in late 1962, meaning early winter 62, 63. This is my aunt, Phoebe Ann, and her fiance, Mel Sensenig. Their bridal shower was held in our basement. And now really exciting news. We have a new sister. This is Sherry. The Hinkle family had come to visit us and were playing shuffleboard down in the basement. That's Kenny Hinkle along with Jay. And up the other end are Jim Hinkle and me. Evidently, this game was really exciting. Here we can see the patio out behind our house and the retaining wall which Dad had built. At Camp Hebron, this is Janet. And now Mom and Sherry. That's Sherry in the back of our car. And perhaps one of the brothers playing with her. This was over the time that they were building the lake, so naturally we had to walk out to see the equipment. The horses and donkey in what was then called Hee Haw Corral. Christmas 1963. I got a wristwatch that year. Sherry got the rocking horse you see in the foreground. Jay got this vacuum form. With the vacuum form, there were shapes that you could mold hot rubber around, or hot plastic around. And when they cooled then, they became toys. Poor Sherry, she seemed to be in just about everybody's way. Jan got a baby doll. And we had to teach Sherry how to ride that horse of hers. Dad got Mom a negligee. And good for Sherry, she's learning to walk. Dad with his girls. Sherry's in Dad's chair, and boy does she seem proud of herself. This is Manheim Central High School Band. It's probably Memorial Day of 63 or 64. The junior high school band, and by this time I would have been in the junior high school band. So I'm in there somewhere, I suppose, playing my trumpet. The Girl Scouts. This is an MYF chicken barbecue at Johnny Herr's house. Johnny had been the barbecuer for the Poultry Association, so he really made good chicken barbecue. I remember that I enjoyed turning the racks. I also enjoyed putting the chickens on and taking them off. I think that might be Luke Mosman and Ben Langer. That's Mom in the blue dress. And there again is Mom off to the left directing traffic and they'll packing. Here's Sherry on the front yard at Grandma and Grandpa Schnee's. Now we see a bear in Yellowstone National Park. This would be our trip out west in 1965. I shot 2 rolls of film on this trip, and I'm pretty pleased with them, although I don't suppose that much of anybody else is. By this time, Dad was taking slides and wasn't using his movie camera at all. So I did get a chance to try my hand at taking some pictures. This probably was the first I ever got to take pictures. Here we're at the geyser basin in which Old Faithful is located. That would be Old Faithful erupting there. There's an elk in the center of that picture. We called him Herman, and we decided to walk out to see him. Sherry was kind of funny because she couldn't pronounce elk correctly. She pronounced it unk. We didn't realize it, but we had parked very close to Castle Geyser, and while we walked out to see that elk, here Castle Geyser erupted. So when we came back, I got to take some pictures of the geyser. Firehole River. There's a bear cub crawling up a tree about 2/3 of the way up that picture. And now maybe about 3/4 of the way up. These were the days before we had telephoto lenses for our cameras. We saw 25 bear that day. 24 of them were in Yellowstone, and 1 of them was outside of Yellowstone. Now, if you look carefully, you might see Jay doing something really foolish. He touched one of these bear cubs in the presence of its mother. And I believe that was him right there, if you saw him. A coyote. Tower Falls. That rock perched on the top of the falls has been there even in the earliest photographs. Here a bear stood up at our car, and I guess I did something kind of foolhardy too. I jumped out and took a picture of it. So that bear is actually at our car. The canyon of the Yellowstone River. The bison are in Custer State Park. It's the largest bison herd in the world. Mount Rushmore. Badlands. This is one of Manheim Central's football games at Donegal, probably in the fall of 1965. I would be in the band there somewhere. I was in 10th grade that year. Kurt Herneisen was the Baron who directed the band that year. So if you see any pictures with there, that would be Kurt off to the left directing the band and playing the alma mater. Donegal's band. And Mannheim Central has the ball now.